Warning, this episode contains strong language or mature themes. Parental discretion is advised.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing good, man. Alright.
Welcome to this podcast is Uncalled For.
What's uncalled for about it?
Well, you can't tell anybody this.
I'm listening.
Oh my God, what are you doing?
Don't be ashamed to be a supporter of Barack Obama for the next 2 years or for the rest of your lives, because you should be proud of what you've done.
I worship Cthulhu just for the free beer.
But you didn't even give a chance for a wild card spot.
Well, the name of this podcast is Stuff Uncalled For?
This podcast is uncalled.
Podcast, all right.
Yeah, that was the most ridiculous ending to that game that I've ever seen.
Oh my gosh, I gotta hurry up. Oh my gosh, I gotta hurry up. Oh my gosh, I gotta hurry up.
We're looking at each other in the eye. We're not going to say anything derogatory to the other person. And, of course, neither of us is drunk.
Another thing that differentiates Mormonism from Catholicism is I don't hear Pope Francis saying that he's a prophet, seer, and revelator.
See, this is a disgrace.
Hey, we're getting somewhere.
And now, your host for this podcast, Mike Chernefsky.
Fuji!
Welcome to the podcast. Welcome to 2020. And welcome to Kansas City. So today's episode is going to be the podcast tour of Kansas City. Now, the first part, I'm going to start just by critiquing and give my notes on a very popular YouTube video tour of Kansas City that was produced by my friend Emerson Rapp a few years ago. And then I'm going to go a little broader and talk about the whole Kansas City area, not just what's the touristy stuff that is talked about in the video. But we're going to start with the video. That's a good starting point. So if you've never seen this video, I'll put it in our show notes. What is the beginning and end start the same way? Emerson approaches this couple. They're in town being tourists and everything, and he offers them a tour of KC. And it's a really quick tour. This is where you do this is where you do that, this and the other. And ultimately, they come right back, and they ask simply, where do we get a drink? And he's like, oh, yeah, it's over here. The beginning and end of this video started on the 39th Street district, which is right on the state line and 39th Street. And it's known for boutique restaurants and everything. It's a very small and cozy part of town. Some restaurants in this area I would recommend are Friends Sushi and Bento. They do probably the best sushi in Kansas City. Another good restaurant in this area is Frickin' Frack, your standard grill fare with burgers and stuff like that. And they have a nice little vegan coffee shop called Mud Pie in this district. And I'd be remiss if I didn't point out Prospero's Books is in this area too. So, as Emerson would say in the video, let's fucking do this. So the first place they go on their tour is one of the main libraries we have in Kansas City. He is specifically pointing at the downtown library parking lot. The actual library is to his left. And one of my top three libraries in the Kansas City Public Library System. The other two I really like are the Plaza Library and the Waldo Library. This is where we get jazz. He is staying from the Jazz and Negro Leagues Museums at 18th and Vine. 18th and Vine is a historically African-American community known for its jazz clubs. Is the home of the Mutual Musicians Foundation, which is the only 6 a.m. liquor license in the entire state of Missouri. And 18th and Vine also has the Cajun restaurant I talked about with Trevor Martin, where we shot the film. I think it's called Danny's. And for those of you who have heard the Kansas City song Stand on the Corner of 12th Street and Vine, Vine doesn't actually go to 12th Street, but when you get to 12th Street where Vine would be, there's a street sign there for 12th Street and Vine. Then he goes to a different barbecue joint. So this is where we get barbecue. This is where we get barbecue. This is where we get barbecue. Kansas City is known for its barbecue. Probably the best way to describe it is that it takes the pork that's prevalent in North Carolina, South Carolina barbecue, and takes the beef that's prevalent in Texas style barbecue and mashes them together. They do both. And they do chicken and pretty much any type of meat. They'll find a way to barbecue it. When you talk about Kansas City style barbecue, two joints always come up: Gates and Arthur Bryant's. Gates is the one I would prefer. They're literally all over the metro, and the food is pretty good. You just have to get comfortable with African American people yelling, "Hi, may I help you?" as you enter the door. Arthur Bryant's, unfortunately, I know there are probably some Arthur Bryant's aficionados that are listening to this podcast. In my opinion, Arthur Bryant's is, quite frankly, greasy and disgusting, and I do not recommend them. In the video, he also stops by Jack Stack Barbecue, which is very fancy barbecue, like the barbecue you get if you're catering a large event or something. It's usually going to be Jack Stack. And Oklahoma Joe's, or they call themselves Joe's now, they have a couple of locations, one of which is a gas station at 47th Street and Mission, just barely in KCK. Expect to be standing in line for almost an hour. And it is not worth standing in line for an hour just to eat. Again, my opinion. One that was not mentioned in the video, but I am going to vouch for right now, is Rosedale BBQ. Not too far from KU Med, which coincidentally is on the other side of the state line from the 39th Street. Rosedale specializes in sandwiches, and I found out about Rosedale during my internship at KCPT. In fact, just before the internship, they did a small program called Check Please Kansas City, in which locals would go to various restaurants in the area and then come back and review them on the show. Well, Rosedale was suggested by Matt McClelland, who was my internship supervisor at KCPT. So where a sports team wins, he's staying in front of Sporting Park, or whatever they want to call it right now. Home of Sporting Kansas City, the local Major League Soccer side. I've already talked about Major League Soccer in my Pro Rel for USA discussion. However, I will say that Sporting do a good job maintaining the fields, either at Swope Park or at the Wyandotte Sporting Fields, which are not too far from Sporting Park, actually. Sporting Park is located in the Village West area with the Legends Outdoor Mall, and a site we'll see later on in the video, the Kansas Speedway. I was actually at the very first game at this stadium. It's a 0-0 draw with Sporting and Chicago Fire. And the only goal in that game was scored by some idiot dressed as a cow. Then we go to where a sports team loses. He is standing in front of the Truman Sports Complex. Kauffman Stadium, the baseball stadium to the north. Arrowhead Stadium, the football stadium to the south. I was going to save this for another podcast, but I'm going to address it now. It's in the wrong part of town. Almost every other city that has a Major League Baseball stadium, that stadium is downtown. Look just across the states from us. St. Louis, Busch Stadium, downtown. Pittsburgh, downtown ballpark. Houston, downtown ballpark. Although the Astrodome was not downtown, they corrected that error with Minute Maid Park. Minnesota, downtown. Cleveland, downtown. Detroit's downtown. Am I missing any? If there are any Major League ballparks that are not downtown, please message me on Facebook or Twitter. But please don't be from the Kansas City area because you probably don't know what the fuck you're talking about. The Truman Sports Complex is 7 miles east of downtown Kansas City. It is closer to downtown Raytown or downtown Independence than it is to Kansas City. It is surrounded by nothing but parking lots. And across the street, and it's 6 lanes of traffic crossing Blue Ridge Cutoff, is a Taco Bell. And then you have to go across I-70 to get to the next restaurant, which is a Denny's. One thing I want in a ballpark, especially a major league ballpark, is it to be downtown in the heart of the city and walkable to business establishments in that area. 81 guaranteed nights that you'll get business in if it's downtown. That baseball team should be downtown, and they just got a new owner. So, Mr. Sherman, I doubt that you actually listen to this podcast, but do the right thing and bring the Royals downtown where they belong. The Chiefs, on the other hand, they more so than the Royals depend on tailgating as part of their culture. It's really extremely difficult to do that downtown, but the way the Truman Sports Complex and Arrowhead Stadium is set up, with tons of parking lots surrounding the stadiums, that makes it ideal for tailgating, in my opinion. And that team should be allowed to stay where they are. As for the losing part, well, this was done before 2015 when the Royals won the World Series. The Chiefs, they last got to a Super Bowl level and won one in 1970, just before the AFL and NFL merger. This is where we see Art. He's pointing at the Nelson Atkins Museum, just east of the Country Club Plaza. The Nelson, of course, famous for their shuttlecock statues just outside in the courtyard. And they've recently done some additions to the place. In fact, I think the Tivoli is now located at the Nelson. And then the Weird Arts, that is the Kemper Museum of Contemporary Art, which is actually not too far from the Nelson. Then they're driving down the street. This is Troost. Are we stopping? No. Troost is unfortunately seen as the racial dividing line of Kansas City. To the east, you have the poor, predominantly African American communities, and to the west is the richer, mostly white communities. It's still travesty that this particular stretch of road is known for that. Troost also serves as a divider a little further south in the South Plaza area between two, shall we say, medium-sized colleges that call Kansas City home. On the east side, in this particular part that I'm talking about, is Rockhurst University, which is a Jesuit Catholic school. And to the west is the main campus of the University of Missouri, Kansas City, UMKC, which is my alma mater. And then where we see horses, that is Kemper Arena, recently renovated and rebranded the Hy-Vee Arena, was home to NBA and NHL when we had those. The Kings in the NBA, the Scouts in the NHL. It's located in the West Bottoms, which is just next to downtown. On the west side of downtown, there's a huge hill going down into the river basin. And that's where the West Bottoms is on the bottom of this hill, where it was traditionally the stockyards, and there's a lot of warehouses down there, some of which were converted into haunted houses. And this arena is there. And Kemper Arena, by the way, also the unfortunate site of a roof collapse in the early 80s. Not that long before or after that, they're very close. But very close to the infamous Hyatt Regency collapse. So yeah, that's where we see horses, and then where we see whores and douchebags is the Power and Light District downtown. By the way, you will never see me in the Power and Light District because I strongly object to their corporate ownership, and I even more strongly object to. A lot of people say it's racist. I will argue that's an elitist dress code. All right, I was actually turned away just because of the way I dress. I'm sorry, I don't tend to wear polos when I go out, and I don't need to be working. All right, I want to be comfortable in a t-shirt and jeans type situation. Relics from the time past. He is standing at the Liberty Memorial in Penn Valley Park, which offers, in my opinion, some of the best views of Kansas City. Is right on top of a hill that gives you a great view. Everything right across the street from Union Station, which is a working Amtrak station. It also holds a number of offices, a number of museums. There's a post office there. There's a theater in the basement as well. They did a good job of restoring the place and making it usable again. It is connected by Skywalk to Crown Center, which is a district that was built to house the headquarters for Hallmark. Yes, the greeting card, Hallmark. Includes a small mall, a couple of museums. There's an aquarium there. There's a Legoland there. But you have to have a kid in order to get in. And a couple of hotels, including the aforementioned Hyatt Regency, which is presently a Sheraton, and the Westin Crown Center. But the Liberty Memorial itself is a monument and museum now commemorating World War I. Also, where you can see relics from the time past. He's staying in front of the Kansas City Star building. Of course, our local newspaper. This is where they make beer. He's staying in front of the Boulevard Brewing Company on Southwest Boulevard, which has got its name. Known primarily for its wheat beers and Tank 7. It's all right, but I wouldn't put it in the same category as Budweiser. And this is where you see boobs. He's standing outside Bazookas, which is in the Crossroads District. As the name kind of implies, it's a strip club. This is where they make money. Again, going back to Penn Valley Park, right across the street from where you enter to go to the Liberty Memorial is the Federal Reserve Bank of Kansas City. All right, so Federal Reserve Banks. Kansas City is one of 12. The others are in Boston, New York, Philadelphia, Cleveland, Richmond, Atlanta, Chicago, St. Louis, Minneapolis, Dallas, and San Francisco. So yeah, Missouri has 2 Federal Reserve Banks, one in each of the big cities. So that's where they make money. And then where you lose money, oh yeah, back to Bazookas. This is where you hear music. He's standing in front of the Kaufman Center for the Performing Arts, which is in the Crossroads District. Fairly recently completed. By recently, I mean 2011, 2012. And then we go to, this is where you hear loud music! He's standing outside the Riot Room in Westport, which is a local bar where lesser known acts perform. Everything. It was at one time called the Hurricane. Definitely an interesting place to check out at least once in your life. So, Then we see fountains. Oh yeah, Kansas City is known for fountains. He's standing in front of the Nichols Fountain on the plaza. And that particular fountain is a popular place for protesters. Then we have Santori's Pizzeria, which he claims is the best pizza in Kansas City. Well, Santora's is unfortunately out of business at the time of this recording. And I would disagree with my friend on this. I think the best pizza in Kansas City is Minskys Pizza. You'll remember from my discussion with Trevor Martin, he did a commercial for Minskys. High quality pizza. Somewhat affordable. I really love their lunch specials. Slice of pizza, salad, drink. And it's really good pizza, and they're literally all over the metro area. So that is my vote for best pizza in Kansas City. And no, this is not a cheap ploy for free pizza, but I will take free pizza if you're listening to Minskys. This is where we see drag races. He's back out in KCK at the Kansas Speedway with this one. And then this is where we see drag queens. It's a weird area between 39th Street and Westport. A place called Missy B's, known for its drag queens. I've never been, but this is where you get fresh food. This is the River Market. That's right on the Missouri River. So the district progression, I might as well get this out of the way now. From the Missouri River going south goes the River Market, then downtown, then the Crossroads, where you see a lot of art museums and repurposed warehouses, then Crown Center, then Midtown, then Westport, then the Country Club Plaza, then we get into South Plaza, Brookside, Waldo area to the south of that. The River Market, as the name would suggest, has a lot of small shops and a farmer's market. You'll find, among those small shops, you'll find a barbecue place, you'll find a Minskys, you'll find a Vietnamese place that does pho, you'll find a game shop, Level 1 game shop is there. I'm friendly with the owners. And probably the only place in the Kansas City area that serves picanha, sirloin cap steak, which is a Brazilian delicacy that I learned about watching sous vide videos. And it happens to be available at a Brazilian kiosk. So there's where we get food. He's in Midtown, just outside of Hostess Brands, which makes Twinkies and other snacky type foods. Then a few places where you can get coffee. Lots of coffee houses around Kansas City. My personal favorites, the Westport Coffee House, which you've heard me talk about a couple of times on this podcast. Homer's Coffee House, where we've recorded some episodes of this podcast, and Black Dog Coffee House in Lenexa. All right, that does it for the video portion, but we got more Kansas City area to talk about. So most of what Emerson was doing was out of Jackson County, Missouri, which is the core of the Kansas City area. Kansas City is huge. How huge I'm talking about? Well, it sprawls across 3 counties. All right, Jackson County is the core county. And then 2 counties to the north, which we collectively refer to as the Northland, Clay, and Platte counties. Any part of Kansas City proper in those 2 counties we refer to as Kansas City North, or the Northland. Not to confuse it with North Kansas City, which I will talk about in a second. That is its own small town, completely enclaved by Kansas City. And Jackson County is where you'll find most of what you think of when we talk about Kansas City. Jackson County has 2 county seats. One is Kansas City, and the other, the original, is Independence. Yes, this would be the same Independence that Mormons believe is where the Garden of Eden was and where Jesus will make his second coming. In fact, that whole part of town, known as the Temple Lots, is home to a LDS Visitor Center, the RLDS Community of Christ Temple and Auditorium, the headquarters for the Church of Christ Temple Lots, the Hetrikites, are there. Pretty much every Latter-day Saints tradition considers that part of Independence Holy Land. Independence is also the home of President Harry S. Truman, and the Truman Library is in Independence. Independence is also where 3 historic trails started: the Santa Fe, the Oregon, and the California trails. In fact, if you've ever played Oregon Trail when you were in elementary school on the old Apple computers, there's a reason you start in Independence, and that's why. Other suburbs of note in Jackson County include Blue Springs, which is a little further east, Lee Summit, where I still claim to this day is probably the easiest part of the Kansas City metro area to get lost in. Again, my opinion, and I stick to it. Raytown, which is almost entirely enclaved by Kansas City on the extreme east side, and to the south, Grandview, home of the Grandview Triangle, which is a clusterfuck, to say the least, where interstates 435, 470, and 49 all converge, making one dangerous and unholy mess. Although I will give them credits in recent years, trying to clean that place up, make it a little easier to navigate, and everything a little less dangerous. But still, that's its reputation. The other 2 counties that's Kansas City is actually in are both, like I said, north of the river. The first of these counties we're talking about is Clay County, which is the easternmost of these 2 counties. If you cross the Missouri River anywhere in Jackson County, you're going to wind up in Clay County. And some of the things Clay County is known for, it's for the most part, a very suburban county. It's home to the Ford plant in Claycoma. The county seat is Liberty, Missouri, where the chess club used to be based out of, but is not anymore. We were located on Liberty Square, which is downtown Liberty, a very historic part of town. There's Mormon history in this county as well. The Liberty Jail is downtown Liberty, and the currently operating Latter-day Saint Temple is near Liberty. It's not in Liberty, but near Liberty. And North Kansas City is also in Clay County, which is also home to the downtown Kansas City Airport, which was our main airport until KCI opened in the 70s, and we will talk about KCI in just a second. Another suburb of note is Gladstone, which is also completely enclaved by Kansas City. And the northernmost part of the metro, Smithville, is in this county as well. In terms of history, I don't think I could talk about Liberty without talking about Jesse James and Frank James, who both came from this part of the country. very notorious criminals in their day. And then the other county that makes up our Northland is Platte County. If you cross the Missouri River from Platte County, you wind up in Kansas, and we'll talk about the Kansas counties in just a second. The county seat is Platte City. Very small town, very notable for their orange water tower immediately north of Kansas City International Airport. So if you're flying into Kansas City from anywhere, this is the county you'll be flying into. It's considered a little more upper class than neighboring Clay County. Notable suburbs in this county include Parkville, right on the Missouri River, Riverside. The REC Casino is in Riverside. Now we got to talk about a couple of Kansas counties, one of which was featured in the video with a sporting park and the racetrack. That's Wyandotte County. When you hear local news, they'll talk about the unified government of Kansas City. They're specifically talking about Wyandotte County and Kansas City, Kansas, because KCK is pretty much takes up all of Wyandotte County. They decide, oh, fuck it, we'll just merge county and city governments together. And they threw in Edwardsville and Bonner Springs as well. And then the last county we need to talk about is immediately to the south of Wyandotte County. That is Johnson County, Kansas, where I live. Very suburban county. A lot of locals will say, well, this is where all the wealth is and everything. And depending on the community, that's true. It is home to Mission Hills, Mission Woods, which is where all the mansions are. In fact, I would dare say Mission Hills is an unnavigable maze of mansions and stuff. You also have Leawood. Doesn't help with that reputation either. And there is a clear split, in my opinion, between the northeast corner of the county, which tends to be more, I'm not going to say progressive, because it's not quite as progressive as I would like, but certainly to the left of the remainder of the county, in fact the remainder of the state outside of Wyandotte. Notable suburbs in Johnson County include my hometown of Overland Park and Lenexa, Shawnee, and Olathe. Olathe is the county seat. And a few others like Prairie Village and Lake Wavera. And Roland Park and Mission. Mission, by the way, best restaurants in Johnson County. The Wikipedia on our area also says Cass County and Leavenworth counties are in our area, so I'll just touch on those real quick, as I don't really consider them part of the metro. They're kind of like ex-urban areas in my view. So I'll start with Cass County, which is immediately to the south of Jackson County. Just a few small towns like Belton, Raymore, Peculiar, Harrisonville. Largely small towns and very rural area. And then Leavenworth County in Kansas, home to Fort Leavenworth and Leavenworth Penitentiary. Leavenworth, not exactly a large city by any means. The state prison in Lansing is in Leavenworth County as well, and is almost entirely rural otherwise. But it's where you'll find Camp Gaia. Alright, I wonder how long I've been talking. Long enough. So we're going to wrap things up here. In a nutshell, just if you get a chance to come out to Kansas City, please do so. And look me up. I'd be happy to meet with you. So until next time, take care. This podcast is Uncalled For, is hosted, produced, and edited by myself, Mike Chernevsky. Opening music is Fantasia Fantasia by Kevin MacLeod at Incompetech.com, licensed under Creative Commons by Attribution 4.0 license. Outro music is The Strip by Mela, licensed under Creative Commons Attribution Share Alike license. Please check out Emerson Rapp's video, The Tour of Kansas City. It will be in our show notes at uncalledfor.home.blog.
If you would like to support this podcast or any of Mike's other creative endeavors, please consider making a donation at patreon.com/Mike Chernevsky. That's MikeCzerniewski. Donations over $5 will receive a special thanks on a future podcast. Thank you so much for listening. We will see you next time.